my kind of town. Chicago is.
Chicago is my kind of town, thought a young 13-year-old Mal Bellairs as he arrived in Chicago for the 1933 World's Fair. Cold, bleak, and windy Cheyenne, Wyoming was home to Bellairs at that time, but the lights and excitement of Chicago captured Mal's heart. Mal vowed to return someday.
My life was decided in 1933, the World's Fair here in Chicago. And I remember three main things: the Avenue of Flags, the Sky Ride, and Sally Rand. I tried to buy a ticket, they wouldn't let me in. One night, the family was fairly exhausted. They stayed at the Y, and I took a walk up Michigan Avenue, and I came to the river, and there was a cruise ship there. I boarded that cruise ship, all 14 years of me, went up on the deck, and we sailed out in front of the city. I remember the Palmolive Beacon. I remember the Wrigley Building, the Tribune Tower. Was it called the Kemper Insurance Building then? Those were about the skylight of Chicago, a lot of smaller things, but oh, how it's changed. I stood up there on the deck, and I listened to a live orchestra playing dance music, and I watched people dancing. It was a full moon. It was August the 13th, 1933. And I said to myself, I'm going to live in this city.
In 1941, Mal did return to Chicago and landed an acting job at theater on South Wabash Avenue, and he worked on local radio. He performed in skits for the Zenith Electronics Corporation, which was experimenting with television. At that time, there were 150 TV sets in Chicago, and workers at Zenith would phone all 150 TV set owners and ask them to watch the live broadcast that night, many of which featured Mal Bellairs.
One night, my date and I were going to a dance up on the roof of the Playhouse, and they needed somebody to play the records so that people could dance. And I volunteered. We had a microphone there, and so I played the records, I talked, and I became a disc jockey. Didn't even know it. There was not even a term. That was 1938 or something.
Service to his country cut short his radio career as Mal joined the service when World War II broke out.
Thank you, Harry Truman. You probably saved my life.
On May the 1st, 1946, returning to Chicago, Mal got his foot in the door to fill in for a vacationing radio host named Jimmy Dudley on WCFL, owned by the Chicago Federation of Labor.
One day, I was making the rounds. I was at CFL. I talked to the program director. Does anybody know his name? In 1946.
Marty Hogan.
Bob Platt.
Bob
Platt. Marty came on later as talent, when he came out of City Hall. By the grace of somebody, Marty Hogan was well connected. So Bob Platt and I talked, and I went home, and about a day later I got a call. He said, I've got a sports announcer named Jimmy Dudley. Do any of you remember Jimmy Dudley? Jimmy Dudley is going over to, I think it was Cleveland, to be a sports announcer. And would I like to come in and do at least a few days, maybe a week, and they looked me over. On Wednesday, they offered me a job. Nothing in my whole life has been as important as that. I was in the town where I wanted to be. I was in the business where I wanted to work. And I remember walking up Michigan Avenue. We came out of the train station right beneath this building. We lived on the south side, so I take the IC up here. I walked up Michigan Avenue. I never touched the ground. I had a job at $62.50 a week.
In 1955, CBS invited Mal to join their stable of top-grade performers on WBBM. Through the years, Mal sat across the microphone from many big names, from musicians, movie actors, and some of the most interesting people in the world.
1955, I got a call. It was from WBBM. And they said, we are going to do a show for the affiliate members of the network here in Chicago. We want to do a dramatic show. We want to show how to sell and what kind of products we have to sell. and we would like to cast you as the station rep here at WBBM. Would you like to do the part? This would be fun to do. So I went in, and we did the show. 2 days later, Al Bland, who was the program director at BBM, called me and said, would you like to join this table? And the next 15 years of my life were devoted to what I did on WBBM. I was with the greatest people in the world. The John Harringtons, the Peyton Flynn's, on and on through all the musicians. Billy Leach is here, Johnny George and Fritz the King's Jesters. We had live music, everything was live. It was called the Showmanship Station. And it was the high point of my life. Nothing before or nothing after has been as much fun for me in broadcasting as my 15 years on WBBM. And I can tell you this, in 15 years, I never once asked what a rating was on a show I did. Not once. I didn't care. Our challenge from management down, from H. Leslie Atlas, the smartest man in radio I never knew, was to do a good show.
After 15 years at WBBM, Mal felt he had done every imaginable type of show and thought it would be fun to own a radio station. Well, he found one in Crystal Lake, WCLR, which stood for Wonderful Crystal Lake Radio. Thinking that was rather corny, he changed it to WIVS, representing all the women and wives who were a darn good audience. Bellairs involved his entire family in the station, a true mom-and-pop station, until he retired some 10 years later. Mal Bellairs was perhaps best known for his ability to ad-lib commercials and his yearly Christmas music special that aired for more than half a century. Congratulations to Mal Bellairs, IBA's newest Broadcast Pioneer Award recipient.